We may have only just got Spirit, but today we have a reveal towards what our next element is going to be in-game. So over in the teaser here that we can see, it's very ominous, and we see an element with a weird-looking hand arising itself out of the grain of the television particles that you see amongst the screen. Now, what is this for? We've got to go into it, especially with its design, as this looks so cool. So it has been confirmed that the storms haven't completely faded from the shanty. And to learn a little bit more, I think we need to head on over to Monster Handler Matt to explore this element.
I saw many people comment about the reveal of Spirit on Seasonal Shanty and a storm happened. The electricity does still seem to be hanging in the air around Seasonal Shanty. Anything and everything to do with the spark of life is mysterious. We'd love to learn more about it, perhaps sometime very soon.
So this element is related to the storms that were initially in Spirit's teaser trailer, and it's also going to be related towards the spark of life. And clearly, going by how the shanty is very involved in this process, and it's referencing towards the storms that were in Spirit's teaser, this is clearly going to be our next seasonal. But I don't think this is going to be a seasonal in the traditional sense, as this one looks like it's going to be taking on a very cool appearance. So what is the spark of life? Galvana, Woobox, and the Colossals all have this power. It's a power that grants the monsters to be able to create life in the first place. If you look at the Colossals, they created literally all the monsters with it. Woobox created the Wobblins with it, and Galvana created Woobox with it. So with this power, what we're going to be exploring here, there's a lot of consequences towards the lore, and therefore I don't think this is going to be a traditional seasonal in that kind of sense, as I think there's going to be quite a lot towards this one. And with them creating their own seasonal event behind the spark of life, finally too, like to what we initially thought Spirit would be like, I think this is going to actually be one of the best seasonals. I think this might even rival Fiddle. Fingers crossed, guys. Fiddle is literally a legend on the seasonal shanty to me. So if this can rival that, I am super excited. But what this seasonal can be based on its element then, it could reveal the origins of the process behind the spark of life. The spark of life is still a very unknown process. We don't really know the means behind it. We know that it can bring inanimate things like bubble right to life with the Wobblins, for example, which is a mineral found throughout the monster world, and it has powers in the sense that it can create monsters in the first place. There's a lot behind the origins that I think they could really delve into with this seasonal, especially if it's going to be really linked towards it. This is their time to go back towards that lore and finally explain it, as there's probably not going to be as good of a chance as with this if this is directly related towards the spark of life. I think the second option is that it could share in a relationship with the Colossals, and this is the one that I am so hyped about. I think this is probably the most likely situation too. If it is connected to the process and is one of the first monsters perhaps to have discovered it, as if it is related to the process of this monster, then naturally I do think this is going to be a monster that actually does come from the origins behind the monster world itself that we went over inside of the lore journals. Go and watch that if you haven't already. Therefore, I think this could be a really interesting moment behind the game to finally expand on how the monsters are born in the first place, as the spark of life, yes, as we've been over, is a very unknown process that we don't know a lot about, but specifically the story elements behind it I think would be a really cool thing to delve into with this seasonal, and perhaps learn how this seasonal is involved in the spark of life. As if this is related towards the spark of life, then I do think this seasonal is going to have to share a connection to the Colossals in the first place, as the spark of life is just so heavily associated with the Colossals at this point. There's not really a way for them to delve away from that, so therefore I really do think that this is going to be really influenced by the Colossals themselves, Woobox and Galvana. This is probably the most lame one, but it could just be another species with the ability that's just kind of there to take a glance towards the history itself. But I think sharing a direct connection towards the origins of the monster world would be the most natural step for this one, especially if this is to share a relationship with the Colossals. I think it would be really interesting to perhaps tie this towards Ethereal Island. Now, I think Ethereal Island is our most likely candidate out of all the islands to share a connection towards this element, as all the Ethereals were created through the spark of life in the first place, and this hasn't been referenced anywhere inside of the game at all. The Ethereals are the experiments that the Colossals did in trying to figure out how to carry out the spark of life before they went ahead and created all of the monster world. So therefore, this monster is highly likely to go to Ethereal Island, as Ethereal Island's connection towards the spark of life hasn't been referenced at all inside of the game, and it's really important inside of the lore. So now's the chance to finally add that to Ethereal Island as well, and I don't see Ethereal Island really being expanded anymore, so this is probably literally one of the final monsters to get that chance towards adding this element to Ethereal Island. So therefore, I think it's very important for it to share not just a relationship with the Colossals, but also to delve into the Ethereal lore a little bit more, so we can take a glance at that inside of the game rather than the lore being separate towards the game, as we need that in the game, guys, don't we? And it'd be a good chance to expand on it too. I think it's a chance to learn more about Ethereal Island's experiments too, as we know the Colossals conducted towards them, but we don't know necessarily the means that they went behind it and why Ethereal Island was shut off from the prime reality where all the islands are for such a long time, as Ethereal Island inside of the Dawn of Fire and the Pocket Dimension weren't accessible at the time. So why did the Colossals choose to do that is another aspect that they could go down inside of this too. I think there's a lot of options here. I think the direct link towards Ethereal Island is our most likely conclusion to make here, and finally getting just that expansion toward Spark of Life on Ethereal Island itself. But regardless, there's so many options, and I think they will do a smashing job with this one. It just seems so good already. From the little element that we have, it looks amazing. So I'm already really excited for this one. For its sound, I'm just gonna say it again. I want those drums. Give me those drums. We need those drums in the shanty. It's our best shot to finally get them. It's the third to last seasonal. Just finally give us a bit more percussion. I am a bit concerned at the moment because there's 3 seasonals to go, and I really want to see this island reach its full potential. So please just let it be. The shanty is in dire need of a bit more instrumentalists before closing and more of a beat, and I do hope that the next 3 are going to be instrumentalists. It's quite likely this one too that it will have an electric based design. We went over how for Spirit that was quite likely, but I think for this one, this is definite now. This is definitive. We've had the little teasers come out for it and everything now, and this is definitely going to be associated with the Spark of Life and the electricity based element side of My Singing Monsters. Therefore, this is a chance to go a bit more wobbling and perhaps reveal a Wubbox Galvana kind of take on it. I don't think it's going to necessarily be alike to Wubbox and Galvana, but I can see it being something very unique that takes on the form of electricity inside of the game. Now, the release of this one certainly does have me a little shemazzled, though. I've made that word up, haven't I? But confused towards what's going on here. We've just had a seasonal, so the release for this one is probably going to be towards the end of June, around the 18th or 25th, most likely the 25th. And it has to release next month, as there's 3 left to release over the next 3 months, so it's likely we're going to get one every single month until the seasonal shanty does reach its conclusion. But I just find it really confusing at this point because it's literally a month in advance, this element that we've been revealed towards, and my hype cannot be contained for this one, as I am so excited, as the Spark of Life is something I want to really know more about. But the fact that we have to wait now does kind of suck, and I'm really confused why the teasers are acting like this at the minute. They've been a bit messy at the moment. We've had Spirit's teaser that really didn't make sense towards what it was trying to cultivate and embody on the shanty, and I think that's the reason why Spirit was perhaps a bit underwhelming for me as well. So hopefully the teasers unravel themselves and aren't as messy, but this one's definitely messy as well, as it's literally a month in advance, this one, so it's a little confusing why they've chosen to do that. But oh well, I'm really hyped anyway because I'm getting my Spark of Life monster, and honestly it's really ironic, as we were initially on about a wobbling theme seasonal coming out, and now we're finally kind of getting that with an ethereal based link towards it, I'm going to assume. I think it's pretty much confirmed that this is going to be linked to Ethereal Island. If they don't, they're doing no justice for the lore, as honestly Ethereal Island needs that Spark of Life link, as it's so associated to the origins that it just needs that element towards it to finally have that on the island itself. It's very separate to the game, and you can only access the lore behind it outside of it, so I don't think that's a good idea. So we need some lore on Ethereal Island about that, I do think. Let me know what you think about this new seasonal element down below, and what you think the monster could look like, because I'm really interested in you guys' thoughts specifically on that, as I think the rest of it is kind of definitive at this point that it's probably going to share a link towards the Colossals and things, but the design itself, there's lots of things that they could do with that. Make sure to leave a like too, guys, if you enjoyed, and to subscribe down below as well, guys. I'll see you guys later though. For now, bye guys.